Welcome to the Franchise Hockey Manager 10 reveal stream. My name is Adam. I'm the community manager of Franchise Hockey. With me, as always, is FHM producer Jeff. And, well, Jeff, I think it's safe to say we are excited to share with you what we've been working on for the 10th anniversary of the game. So, without much further ado, although I guess you didn't say hi, let's introduce you to the next version of Franchise Hockey Manager.
Yeah, I guess I can say hi everybody. I think what we're going to do here, the way we'll run this is show you the trailer first, and then I'll take a longer walk through some of the individual features. Have a Q&A after it. I think in other years we've normally done the Q&A with me actually playing the game because the way I've got this set up this year, I'm not going to be able to do that tonight. But what we'll do, since we've got the extra week, next Wednesday, I will sit down with the game and go through a lot of the nuts and bolts stuff with you then. But so this will just be
Oh, Jeff, you're
essentially the
giving things away
slideshow, and
already.
yeah. But I think if you're ready, Adam, you want me to kick off the slideshow and kick off the trailer, and they can see the first version of it.
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. By the way, this is super loud when I play it in my ear, but it seems to come through normally at a normal volume when I test it. So you may want to just sort of put your hand on your volume control if it's deafening for you. So here we go.
Celebrating 10 years with our fans. Franchise Hockey Manager 10, officially licensed by the NHL. Welcome to the next generation of FHM. Play the game your way. Custom games now allow you to import real teams or entire leagues from anywhere in the world or from our historical game. And you can now set up promotion and relegation systems for your custom leagues. Gain more control with our reworked trade system, including new team needs and player shopping systems. Beware the media. Manage media relations that can affect your team's happiness and the opinions of your fans and owner. Bring more hockey history to life by traveling all the way back to 1909 and the newly playable National Hockey Association, complete with 7-man hockey. College hockey has expanded. American college teams now have to contend with the transfer portal, and the Canadian college teams are now playable. Updated for the 2023-2024 season for every NHL club as well as international, minor, college, and junior leagues. Get to know the players better with prospect tournaments, youth tournaments, and new scouting options. And so much more. Franchise Hockey Manager 10, celebrating 10 years of hockey strategy with our fans. All on the only NHL licensed PC game. Releasing November 7th, 2023.
Okay, so there we have it. Release date, obviously 2 weeks from yesterday. So it'll be the 7th is a Tuesday. So it's basically the same time as we released last year, just I think, well, 1 day or calendar day earlier, but same day of the week. Timing on that, I think we normally release it at 8 o'clock a.m. Pacific, so 11, I think that's what we've done it last year in other years, isn't it, Adam? And it's 11 Eastern.
Oh, Jeff, we've changed it up so many times. It's
Yeah,
hard to
that's
tell. But yeah,
the
usually
issue. We got to kind of balance it because we don't want to do it too early because if there's a problem with Steam, we need the Steam people in the office to fix it for us. And if there's a problem at our end, we need our people in the office. The problem is they're in Hamburg, Steam's in Seattle, and they're so opposite side of the world. So there's a little bit of an awkward window we got to deal with there. But so it may move a little bit earlier this year. I think we may do it at something like, I don't know, 6 Pacific and 9 Eastern. So and it'll obviously be earlier in the evening in Europe as well.
Yeah,
So,
I'm just going to point out just for the few people who are continuing to join in. Uh, we are going to run through some of the new features, talk through our way through some of the stuff, and as that happens, we will take some questions at the end. So I know some of you are excited, and we can see that in the chat already. Please keep note that we'll do our best, but if you can hold some of your questions right till the end, that would be very helpful.
and
Right?
where was I here? Lost my train of thought here. Uh, so yeah, one thing to keep in mind when you're showing the screenshots, some of them may be a little bit out of date, or so the data may be player data or graphics or something may be a little off. But for the most part, I think it's fairly recent. But if you see something odd, that's likely why. So I think I might as well kick it off here, Adam. Let's show you the new start screen to begin with. Uh, Not sure how evident it is here, but that's a new font. That is Georama, which is a fun name for a font. It's actually a little bit clearer. For our testers have been telling us that it seems to be a lot easier to read now. So I think that'll be a little helpful, particularly if you're an old guy like me and your vision's starting to go. So that may be a little more user friendly. You made a few other user interface changes, but as you can see, I can't really tell too much from the start screen. Still got the NHL license. Teams, you've got the new Bruins and Flyers logos. Well, slightly new-ish up there.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Are we? So, after that, we kind of just ready to jump into it, Jeff?
Yeah, go for it. I'd start with the
All
custom
right.
stuff, I guess.
Well, yeah. So I was gonna say, so Jeff, one of the things I think I'm personally most excited about is the revamped custom game. It's been one of the things many of our fans have been asking for, and we saw some things revealed with this trailer. Is there anything else in particular you want to add?
Yeah, well, I can explain a little bit how it works. Obviously, this is the custom game start screen's changed a little bit, and you've got two different options there now. Add regular fictional league, which is sort of the old add league button plus a little bit extra, which I'll get to in a second. You've also got a button there to add a promotion relegation fictional league. So if you want to set up a league system where the last place team in one league drops down to a lower level and is replaced by the champion of the lower level league, you can do that now. It's it's in a fairly early stage. We're gonna try to make this more elaborate. Right now, you can only do two connected leagues. You can't do a big chain of leagues, but that's something we want to do, obviously. And there's a few other restrictions on it. At the moment, I think that you uh, have to run. You can't really run a regular draft with a promotion relegation league. It's set up. Oh no, wait, did we change that? I may have just made a liar of myself. I think we might have changed that. I'd have to check on it. But yeah,
What are the
there's a few
features?
extra restrictions on the promotion relegation leagues, but it's early and we'll be adding. That's a feature we'll be adding to as we
Yeah, it's one
go
of
along.
when people have been asking what we've been working on. This has been one of the main things.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's yeah, a lot of work to get it working in the game or in the custom game in particular, just because there's a lot of different league configurations you can put together and it can be a bit of a mess. But we've got it in now, and we'll be able to go from here. The other big,
So,
go ahead.
sorry, no, go ahead. You're fine.
The other big custom feature is probably an even bigger one than that. You can now, when you're setting up a custom game, you can import any league, well, almost any league in the game. There's a few lower level ones that really don't, that wouldn't work. But you can see from this list, there's a lot of leagues I've got on the drop down here that aren't playable in a normal game, but you can at least import their structure and their players. Bear in mind the data isn't going to be as good as it is for the playable league. We've got a lot of the players in, doesn't necessarily, but they're not going to be probably as rated as well or as up to date as the other ones, and some of the league structures may be a little older. But we'll work on getting that caught up. But basically, you can. I know this probably adds. It's probably doubling or tripling the number of leagues you can play a game with now. So you can add that in, and then you can do the usual stuff with a custom league, change the rules around, add playoff systems, and so on. If a league has a complicated playoff system that we have to hard code in the main game, that won't be in. You'll have to add your own playoff system and figure out a bit of a workaround to it. But this is something people have been asking for, the ability to import leagues into just a wholesale league into a custom game the way that you have been up to now able to do it with just the NHL, the AHL, and the CHL, 3 CHL leagues. Now you can do it with any leagues. Uh, the
So this
other,
means
go ahead.
I was going to point out this means if you want to import the entire United States Hockey League, you can do that. If
Yeah,
you want to import, and I'm just looking through the list here, the Italian Hockey League, you can do that.
yeah,
If you
or
want to
the big
import,
leagues like the Swedish third level, or
yeah,
Finnish third and fourth level.
I
We
was
got the
going to
third
go. If
level, we got the league in there now. But you fourth and fifth level, that's what that two division and three division
if you
are.
want to import the Alberta Junior Hockey League, the AJHL, you can do that
Yeah.
into your game. So there is lots of options.
And the other side of that is you can see the database field at the top of that screen. As a modern setting, can't change it now because this is just a screenshot, but you can flip that to historical, and then you can import any league from any point in the game. So you obviously the NHL from 1917 to the present, then the WHA years, the old PCHA slash WCHL slash WHL from the 1900s to the early 20s, and one more which we'll get to in a minute. But you can, I think somebody literally just asked for this in the forum today, so it's nice to see that, the ability to import a league in any season and then run fictional drafts forward from that. And I should clarify there that if you import a historical league from older season, you're not going to get the drafts the way you would in historical. That's extremely complicated to do, maybe sometime down the road. But you will be able to, if you want to say, you can do things like, if you want to set up a league with the 20 greatest Leafs teams of all time and play them against each other, or if you want to set up a
Is
32
there 20
team,
greatest Leaf teams?
well, greatest in quotation marks, and the or you could set up a 32 team NHL league and it's the best team from each team's history playing against each other. So and I'm sure people will come up with different ways to use it, but that adds a huge amount of flexibility to what you can do with the custom game and what you can pull out of the database. The one thing that's been asked for that we haven't been able to do yet because it's really, really, really complicated, is exporting your own league and then sharing that with other people to use as a custom league. So maybe down the road, but not yet. So I think we covered pretty much everything there. Oh, the other thing you can do, when you can also set up a league as you would now, and then you also got an option beside each team name when you get to the next screen, where you could import a specific team. So if you don't want to, that's how you would do the thing with the best team, or best team in each team's history. You would set up a normal 32 team league, then you'd use the import team feature on the next screen to replace all those teams with, say, the 1970 Bruins or the 55 Canadians or whatever. And I think that covers that's the core of the custom stuff for this year. There's other new customizable stuff, but I mentioned some of that a little later on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So our next, Jeff, in the news this week, or at least in the Canadian news media, all we've heard is Winnipeg is moving. No, they're not. Winnipeg's moving because of tenants issues, and I mean, I think that really plays into one of the next pieces, which is
Media coverage.
media coverage, and there's just something. There's always seems to be something in the news feed all week and it's really relevant to FHM10. Media seems to be playing a bigger and bigger role in hockey. So how is that reflected in FHM10?
So this is sort of the final pillar to the off ice system that we've been adding gradually with adding the fan opinion of the team and the job you're doing. Last year it was the off ice team harmony and morale stuff, and now this is the sort of last leg of it, putting the media into the picture. And the way it works is each team has a coverage, like a media coverage level. So obviously, if you're playing in a very low level league, you're not going to have the same level of coverage as you were if you're playing in a major media market like this screenshot is from the Rangers about 20 years ago. And one of the things you can see, the new thing on this screen is the media focus. Each team's media is rated for how they tend to cover the team. So a lot of a lot of markets will be relatively gentle. They'll tend to be sort of cheerleading you, and their coverage of players will be pretty positive. The In other cases, let's say Montreal, the media coverage is considerably different, and it's going to be really rough on your players. So you're going to have to deal with that. The media will respond to things like losing games, and then some of the team harmony incidents. They'll cover that as well. They'll have You'll get a list of players who the media is currently focusing on. It'll be longer for teams that have a lot of media coverage, like you can see in this case, the Rangers. It's like a 30-year roster there. They're paying some attention to, and this is, I mean, fairly good here. They're happy with Messier and Murray. Fairly neutral coverage on three guys, and Lindros and Bury they're not happy with at the moment. So that's going to potentially have an effect on Lindros and Bury's performance and things like their willingness to re-sign with the team. And then we get a little deeper into that. You'll get media events happen, or media reactions in your news feed, and you get an option to, it says what the media is doing. In this case, you're playing as the Leafs, and they're critical of Russ Courtnall, and you've got a few different options to respond with there. And the way the options work, you can try to protect your player, make him happier, or agree with him and try to push him a little harder. There are various responses the players can have to that, good and bad. Your own relationship as the GM with the media is also tracked. So if you're perpetually disagreeing with everything the media has to say, that's going to break down your own relationship with the media. They're not going to like you, and that is potentially going to have some effects on your job security. So you have to be careful about where you're picking and choosing and how you respond to these situations. So that's sort of the final leg of the the whole off-ice setup. And we'll probably, and now that everything's in place, I'll be able to elaborate and make a few more connections between things. But there's already quite a few to begin with. So that's another challenge to deal with when you're managing your team. I think that's about all of it for the media stuff. You want to get into, I guess, the trading things now, Adam?
Yeah, I said I think one of the things most people are going to be excited for is the new trading system. And so, Jeff, do you want to talk a little bit more in detail on that?
Yeah, this is what the trade screen looks like now. You can see the offer tab over to the left. If you click on that, that's the old traditional trading interface screen with two teams. You add players to it and get responses and complete your deal and whatnot. But we've got a couple of new tabs here. First one is needs. And what you can do with this is specify what your team needs at the moment. And you can see the whole list of possible settings on the upper left there. You've also got an active needs button, which I'll explain a little more in a second, but you can specify a set of needs, set that as your active needs, and that will reflect what kind of offers you get under some circumstances. Then the results screen over at the right, that gives you a bunch. You can see the drop down in the top right. Right now it's showing all players matching active needs. So what I've got set here as the active needs are, I think, what's it, goalie, maximum age 25, foreign players allowed, contract expiring this year, et cetera, et cetera. So it's giving me a list of all the guys. I think that's showing in your current league right now who would fit that description. So it makes it a little easier rather than, if you've ever watched a stream with Adam and I, we kind of wind up paging through each team looking for a guy that fits what we need. Don't really have to do that anymore. It'll show it all here on this one screen. It'll also let you do things like there's some other types of lists in that drop down where you can, for example, show which teams might have an interest in the players in your trading block. So you know which team to go to and try to work out a deal. The other aspect of the trading system is the shopping screen. The other thing that's changed. You can see here we've done away with the old player shopping system where you do the right-click thing on the player's name and collect a bunch of offers, and you have to deal with them in your email and go through each one and click it, accept, reject, whatever. and that's always been a little bit awkward. So we've gone to something that's probably a little bit closer to the way it's done in Out of the Park. You can choose your players, and I should also note here, you can put multiple players into a shopping package now, as well as draft picks. Then you hit the shop now button, and then your offers will generate at the bottom. And you can see on beside player requirements, there's a drop down. Right now it's set to active needs only, and I can't remember this is a different set of needs than
Now,
the one I had originally here. But
I,
it
I was
will
just
go ahead.
I was just going to point out, Jeff, did you do this, the other day after DeBrusque missed his team meeting?
No, this is a little older than that. This the I was going to say, yeah, the active. So this is set right now to active needs, whatever they were when I had them set for the Bruins when I took this screenshot. But it will usually restrict to the responses to stuff that's on your active needs list. We've got a little bit of a bug with that in the moment, where it sometimes includes other things. But basically, if you want to, if you set a really restrictive set of active needs and use that active needs only option, you're probably not going to get as many offers, but it will be exactly what you want, or at least the other team's interpretation of exactly what you want. You may not be happy with the offer. And you've also got options like if you only sometimes you just want to dump a player for a draft pick, and one of the other options on that player requirements list is draft picks only, so you can just shop a player and get a list of who's going to offer you a draft pick for this guy. So there's a lot more flexibility in that, and you don't have to deal with that whole mess in the inbox anymore. And I think that covers it for the trading screens. Don't think, yeah, I think that's about.
Yeah, well, one of the next big features, again, addressed in our trailer, it was scouting. Scouting continues to evolve in Franchise Hockey Manager 10. Let's talk a little bit more about what general managers can now get for additional information on prospects.
Yeah, so what we can do here, one of the new things we've added is this screen. It's at the start of every month, you'll get a list of upcoming tournaments, and you can send a specific scout to watch a specific tournament. It slows down his regular scouting a little bit for that month, but you'll get a report back from him at the end of the tournament describing what he saw, if he saw any interesting players, and so on, and you'll get better coverage of the players that happen to play in that tournament. And now, if you look on the screen, you can see it's you've got obviously the World Under 17 Hockey Challenge. That's an international tournament in the game right now. But you've got this thing, Elite Prospects U18. So what is that? That is one of our new youth tournaments. What we've done to flesh out the sort of development stage of the players and the scouting at lower levels is add. I think there's a ton of them. There's 20 odd, might even be 30-ish, of these youth tournaments that are sort of simulating the type of rep tournaments that go on through the year. We can't, obviously, it would be a mess to try and simulate, every Pee Wee rep team in the country. So we simplify it a bit by making them regional. This is sort of the equivalent of the Quebec City Pee Wee tournament, where you've got 4 groups and a variety of teams from Canada and the U.S. and a couple of European teams mixed in as well. And this will only be 13-year-old players. So that isn't probably terribly useful if you're playing as the NHL. But if you're running a junior team, say for the WHL, you want to see the upcoming Bantam guys that'll be coming through in the Bantam draft, or or college. I mean, there's, in addition to the U14 group, there's under 16, under 18 levels too. So you'll get a lot more opportunities to specifically scout some of the better players in the game. That does remind me, I'll mention that in the college stuff. That's a little more, makes more sense for there. We changed a couple of scouting mechanics as well. But it's useful for if you're playing junior college, some European teams. The tournaments are in both North America and Europe. It's roughly an even split. So the young players will get a lot more exposure now. The other thing we've done with sort of scouting related, also kind of preseason related, is prospects tournaments, and this is something that people have been asking for quite a while. Now we've got them in the game. They're turned on for the KHL or for the NHL and the KHL by default. There's also an option to turn them on in the league settings for other leagues if you want them as well. I think we have some restrictions on that since it won't quite work properly with. So I think something like with say a junior league or a college league. I don't think that's going to work right. So I think we've turned it off for them. But you can add it to other leagues. And for historical games, I can't remember what year I set it at exactly, but the NHL, after a certain point in history, will start running these prospects tournaments. It's in the early 2000s, roughly the time that they started showing up in real life. And the way these work is each team sets up a list of prospects that participate in the tournament. You can, obviously the teams are going to prioritize their young guys they've got under contract that meet the prospect definitions, and the unsigned draft picks and so on. You can also invite free agents to play for you in this tournament if you want to take a look at them. And these guys will play a round robin tournament. For the NHL, it splits it up so it's the tournament is 4 or 5 games long. Everybody here will play everybody else, and then you'll get a report at the end of it, describing what happened in your team's tournament, if anybody stood out, who the better players were, and you'll be able to look in and watch. If you want to watch the games, you can do that, see how your prospects do against other teams' top prospects. This will improve the scouting level of this. It's another thing that improves the overall scouting of high-level prospects, as well as the players that participate in this get a small bonus to their development. So it's good to get them if you want to maximize development on your young players. Good to get them in this tournament and get them playing against fairly elite opposition that's around the same age as them, and it'll give them a bunch of playing time. And they'll be pulled off of the teams that they're currently on if they've started the season already. All these, you can see the date on this is August 15th, so it will schedule the tournaments sort of in the preseason before the actual preseason occurs and you're playing exhibition games. So this is a summer tournament basically. And I think I guess we get on to historical now, Adam.
Yeah. So again, as we announced in the trailer, for the first time ever, we can go all the way back to 1909 and play in the National Hockey Association. And that means one of the big ads this year means we can play as the Rover. The Rover now exists in FHM.
Yeah. For historical, the big historical edition this year, there are pretty much 3 options we could have gone with. Minor leagues, adding some playable historical leagues in Europe, or going back and adding the pre-NHL league, the NHA. We decided to go with this one. There's some complications with the other ones. Honestly, I think the minor league thing would have been the first choice if there hadn't been such a huge data requirement and a few other kinks to work out. It was easier and it made a little more sense to do this one now and do it first ahead of doing that. So we get the NHA this year. It's actually a really interesting period to play in. You can see this is the first season, which actually didn't begin until 1910. It's in the game. It's technically the 1909-010 season, but you only play the games don't start until January of 1910. And you've got some odd names in there. Obviously, Cobalt, Haileybury. What are these little towns in it's by Lake Temiskaming in northern Ontario, which I don't think they even rate a junior A team now. How are these teams in with the big names like the Canadians and the Senators? That's an interesting story, and you'll be able to see how this league evolves and the teams move in and out. Spoiler alert, the Cobalt and Haileybury teams aren't around very long. You've also got the Montreal Wanderers. I mean, in a standard NHL game, you bring in 1917. They're only there for one season, and even then we're being generous because they left after a handful of games when their arena burnt down. But this is the Wanderers. Despite the 0-3 record at this screen, they're one of the powerhouses of the early NHA. And the Canadians are the new guys on the block. As you can see from the old blue C logo, they go through a whole bunch of different logos in those early seasons. And we've got, period correct logos and uniforms for them all. So you'll go that. So you can now start the game in 1909 and play those first. Well, through 1916-17 is the last NHA season, and the PCHA, the Western League, is in there as well. They appear with their historical start date in 1911. So the first couple of seasons it's just the NHA. You got the players to yourself. Then you get a little bit of competition from out west. You can see the scoring is a little bit crazy. We're having a little bit of trouble nailing that down. I think I've got it down to a mostly reasonable level now, but I don't think. Oh no, this is a fairly new screenshot. I think so. Yeah, that's a little bit better. They're roughly about where it should be. The other thing, let me show you it's one of the in-game, the roster screens for the NHA teams. As Adam mentioned, we've been able to add the rover to the game. So the rover was sort of a sixth skater position on the ice, the hybrid between defenseman and forward. You typically line up for a face-off behind the center, but up at the edge of the face-off circle. We sort of had to hack it in. The way we did it was use the spot we normally use for the extra skater in the 2D engine. So that's where they play. Since I had already set that up kind of with this potentially happening in mind, that position will play like the rover. You won't see an extra rover position listed, but in your lineup, the coach will make use of one of your guys, and it'll be an appropriate one, somebody that's ideally got a little bit of skill at both defense and center, which is fairly common in this time period. And you'll see that seventh man on the ice playing. It only works in 2D mode, so the seasons where the rover rule is active are forced into 2D mode. You can't use the older engine for them, so it slows things down a little bit. But the schedule length and the number of teams is so low, it's not really that noticeable. The other thing with the rover. It's completely optional. You can add the rover as an option in other years. So if you want to try the modern NHL with the rover, you can do that. The only thing is enabling the rover rules, because we use that sort of cheat to put it in. You won't be able to pull the goalie in the same time period, because historically, I mean, it makes historical sense because the two things never coexisted. Pulling the goalie was something that came along into hockey long after the rover rule was removed, which was, I think, the last top level league to use that was the PCHA, and I think it was the Western League at that point. I think they stopped that in 22 or 23. And if you don't manually re-enable it at that point, you'll have it'll just go back to playing normal six-man hockey as it did historically. But if you use everything on the default settings, you'll get the rover for the seasons where it actually occurred, which is the first two NHA years, and then the first 11 or 12, I think it is, PCHA years. And I should just quickly mention here, there's a couple of other historical things. Forgot to do a screenshot for one because it's kind of big-ish. When you wanted to start as an expansion team in historical, and we've done this a couple of times on the stream, previously you had to sim out the whole previous season to get to the expansion draft in the following season, and then take over the team prior to the expansion draft. What you can do now, for every year where there was an NHL expansion draft, going back to 67, is if you take control of one of the expansion teams in the start year, say you started in 67 as Philadelphia, you'll be able to run the real expansion draft at the start of the game. It has the correct protected list. It works pretty much exactly the same way that we did with the Seattle and Vegas expansions. So that's the same mechanic. We've just adapted it to historical, and I was able to go back and dig out all the old real protected lists. And sort of as a corollary to that, we've also enabled the fill-in option for the draft, which is a rule that when a team gets one player selected, an established team has one player selected from it in the expansion draft, they're allowed to protect another one of their own players and take somebody off the exposed list, which is why in the game up until now, you tended to get much stronger expansion teams than really were the case historically, because I think they used the fill-in rule right up if I'm remembering right up to the WHA merger. So all those previous drafts will have that rule now, so it's going to be a lot harder to start out as an expansion team, and you'll get those god awful terrible teams in Washington and Kansas City in the mid '70s when the expansion draft rules were pretty brutal, and you also had to fill in, so you were getting virtually nothing to start with. So it's a bigger challenge now than it used to be. And the other thing we've done for historical is add year ranges to the awards. So you won't be seeing somebody win the Marc Messier Leadership Award 40 years before Marc Messier was born. So the awards will only come in their historical years. And not really to historical, but I might as well mention it now. We've also added a bunch of new award types, particularly for, the leagues have various different things. We've only had the traditional set of NHL award types to begin with. Now you can have things like awards for the guy who gets the most assists, best defensive defenseman. There's, I think it's about 25 new things that are positive that you can turn on for your league and add to existing leagues. So if you think the NHL needs an award for best defensive defenseman, you can do that. And I think that, I'm getting beyond historical, but I think that covers all of history plus a little bit else. So.
Yeah. So next thing?
Yep.
All right. So, Jeff, speaking of new leagues, after we added the American College Hockey in FHM 9, we now see Canadian College Hockey has been added. How did that come about?
I mean, it was a logical thing to do. We added the whole college system for the American teams, and college hockey isn't quite as big a deal in Canada, but still, it's where a lot of players who went through the junior leagues, major junior, wind up playing for a few more years after their junior career ends if they don't go on to the pros. Some guys go down from, will leave the pros and wind up playing a few years in Canadian university hockey. And, occasionally you get an NHL prospect out of all of this. But it's I think probably a third of our audience are Canadians, and I'm assuming most of you guys in that group either went to college or in college or are going to go to college. So you can now play as your college team unless you're like me who went to UVic, and we don't have a college hockey team, at least at this level. But it adapts. It mainly borrows heavily from the U.S. college system, but it is changed in a few ways that are more appropriate to Canadian hockey. Like, as I said, the NCAA doesn't allow recruiting of guys who played in, say, the Western Hockey League, or even pro, where U Sports doesn't care. You're welcome to come play if you played in the ECHL a little bit or played major junior, you can go for any of these teams. So it's a different recruiting pool. Players tend to be recruited a little older, the games aren't as well as attended, and you don't have quite the level of financial backing that you would playing as a U.S. college team. But it's a different challenge. It's it's a fairly unique league. So I think people are going to enjoy seeing that, particularly if they played as the U.S. college teams before, and it's got, the whole playoff system for U Sports hockey is in there.
Which is a little bit different than some other things.
Yeah, it's similar to the NCAA one, the conference tournaments leading up to a main overall playoff. I think the final tournament is 8 teams, if I'm remembering right. So it's a little bit more exclusive than the NCAA tournament. But it's an interesting league to play in. I think people are going to like that. And speaking of the U.S. system, we've added another thing there. The big addition to that is the transfer portal. And that screen really needs a label on it. This is actually the draft log for the transfer portal. So what happens in this is, in the game last year, I think, and you saw this if you watch my Wisconsin stream, it's really easy to stockpile players, and they don't really care if they're not playing that much, even if they're a great prospect. If you've got them as a fourth-string goalie, they're not really. They may get up a little upset at the amount of playing time they're getting, but they don't really have any recourse against that. Now they do. If the player isn't happy with the situation, whether it's because of playing time, or if he doesn't have a scholarship or only has a partial scholarship, or he just doesn't like you, he's got the option of going into the transfer portal at the start of a new season, and you will see play. And other teams. The draft works exactly like the other college quote unquote drafts work in U.S. college, in the game for U.S. college hockey. You nominate a player, and then any team can compete for him. You get a little bit of a bonus for the guy in trying to recruit the guy you nominate. But you can see in this case, you've got the top guy has left Stonehill to go to Harvard, which seems like a pretty good upgrade. Guy going from Minnesota to Boston, that's Cole Eiserman, pretty good prospect who apparently didn't like being in Minnesota, I guess. But you can see from the ability level, I think I've got this set to. I've got the league chosen as NCAA, but I think I still may be looking at this from an NHL perspective. The star ratings would be, if I was in a college game, the star ratings would be, Eiserman would definitely be five stars.
Yeah, it still says Canadians at the top, so.
It's NHL defaulted. So those star ratings are from the NHL perspective, not from the college perspective. So if you've got a poorer team, it's a good way to steal a few players. Or if you've got a very good team, you're going to have to contend with potentially losing guys, so play them or lose them. And I think that's the last of the big features. I guess there's a few other things to go through. One thing, if you can see, for example, on this screen, you can see this is a roster screen. There's a new stats tab there, and that was kind of dumb on my part. I should have actually shown you the screenshot with actually has that screen visible, but you can see it in the UI at least. And what this does is take away the need. You don't have to go over to the right side, click that drop down, and select stats and fool around with choosing the contracts tab if you want to see all the guys in your roster. You just click stats, and it'll show you your team stats for the current season and the stats of anybody who's played for you this year. So just an ease of use thing. It's a lot closer to what you'd see for a traditional stat screen rather than having to mess around with the interface do 2-3 clicks to get to the stats information. Just one click and you can see it right there. Let's see, what else have we done this year that I don't have screenshots of? Playoff schedules. People are always complaining that the way the playoff schedules worked each series all the games would be played on the same day. So if you had 8 series, you'd have 8 games in one day and then no games the next. It staggers those now, so half of them will be one day, half the next. So it's a much more realistic looking schedule. So you'll be seeing playoff games every day as you're going through the playoffs. Let's see. I think I can't remember if it's actually showing it this way or not on this screen. The cap hit. I think it is showing. You can see the cap hit numbers are color coded. That's a new contract quality setting. No, actually, no, that isn't it because that's just going by value. But there is a new contract quality view in the UI on the contract screen where it'll tell you, give you an evaluation of whether or not the game thinks the guy is on a good or a bad contract. So obviously, a player that's badly declined but is still making, say, $5-6 million a year, it'll tell you that that's a bad contract, and that'll give you a little bit more of a clue as to how the AI on other teams is evaluating the players. If you can't move a guy, you can look at that screen and see, it's because he's got this terrible contract and nobody really wants him at that price. Or conversely, you can see a guy, if a rookie starts really fast and has still playing on his ELC contract, that's going to be evaluated as a very good contract to have because he's cheap and he's good at that price. Also made some improvements to 2D mode, mainly in the breakout area. It's a little bit smoother now. Players, it's similar to what we did last year for the power plays, the set plays in the offensive zone. We've done something similar with the breakouts, so players will tend to stick a little closer to your actual selected breakout tactic and forechecking tactics. And that should be evident when you're watching 2D mode. The last big thing I can think of, we just put this in the last week or so. A lot of people have been asking for over the years, and it's actually, particularly I think multiplayer leagues have had some issues with this. The game, you're no longer limited to installing the game on the old C documents out of the Park Developments path. You can choose a custom install path and put it on whatever drive you want, and all your data and saves will be there. And you don't have to necessarily put it on the documents drive. Particularly, I should mention that's Macs will still continue to go to the documents drive. It's the PC that has the PC version that will have the custom install path option. In particularly because Microsoft has done that thing where they sort of, when you're installing a new version of Windows, installing Windows on a new system, it'll try to default you to putting your documents folder either entirely on one drive or at least backing up to one drive, which causes no end of problems for something that has to save frequently like the game does. Because your save file is in that documents folder, and the game is writing to it a lot. And if you're depending on an internet connection somewhere in there, things go wrong, data gets corrupted. So we think what this will do, taking that out, if you've gone to a path that isn't doing that OneDrive connection, we think that's going to dramatically cut down on the amount of people with corrupted save games that are coming to us, and then basically, well, we need to go in and manually fix them for you. So hopefully that's going to solve a lot of that problem this year, and we won't have to be doing that quite as often for you guys, and you guys won't have to go to the trouble of letting us know and saying, hey, can you fix this for me? And as also the various problems that OneDrive was causing with multiplayer leagues, hopefully this will clear that up as well. And yeah. I think that is pretty much the end of the new features. So I think, do you want to go into as I said before, normally I would go into the game and show you the nuts and bolts of some of this stuff, but we've already gone for quite a while already, and I screwed something up when I was setting this up, and I can't really set up the game, stream the game at the resolution I'd want to, because of the way I've done the slideshow. So what we're going to do next week is we'll come back and I'll have the game running, and we'll be able to go through all the new features and give you a much better idea of how they work and the nuts and bolts of them and all of that. But for now, Adam, we got some questions that need answering.
Yeah, so let me just kind of fly. One point the Tyler A10 says, do you realize that decision you made from Iserman was in real life? He decommitting from Minnesota to go to BU.
Oh, right, yeah. I didn't even... Yeah. Well,
again, we've been...
In reality, yeah, and I got to... Actually, was that a recent screenshot? I think I might have to go back and change his rights. Oh, no, I'll get that in data update probably next week.
Yeah, we've been really busy kind of digging into things here. So questions coming up. First question from NYX. 3 questions. From promotion and regulation leagues, can you use real NHL teams but with fictional players?
You can use the import feature to pull those teams into the league. Yeah, you can do that. You want with fictional players, though? I mean, the way to do that really would be to... No, because if you're going to import the teams, you're going to get the real players as well. I think you would still have to set up the NHL teams manually, and with set up the name and all of that.
Will there be a dynamic trade deadline feature added like in OOTP 24?
Not at the moment. I'm taking a look at that, and there's some complications for doing it our way, but I would like to do something along those lines at some point.
Yes, and the third question from him was, any updates on tournaments and how and when they are scheduled?
Which tournaments? Where was the question? I didn't...
It's in the OOTP develop. He doesn't directly say.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
A couple things. Okay. You can add to that too.
Oh, custom tournaments. Okay. I think he was. Yeah, custom.
Oh
tournaments.
Yeah, custom tournaments. Yeah.
Not yet. Something. It was on the wish list this year, but the import thing and the promotion relegation leagues ate a big chunk of time. So that was. Custom kind of got its share, and then a little bit more on top of that of the attention this year. So no custom tournaments yet, but still pretty high on the wish list for custom. Might actually be that or international hockey would be the next big things for custom, as well
Yeah,
as fleshing out the stuff we've already added.
just pointing out a couple things. Mr. Wrestling 2 says, any possibility of perfect team in the distant future? There's always a possibility of it, but it's not
Uh,
currently in the plans.
I wouldn't even say there's a possibility of it realistically. It's highly
Well, again,
unlikely, put it that way.
yeah, there'd be several big hoops to go through. Bosco 8179 says, can you make unplayable leagues in unplayable leagues? Can you make unplayable leagues in custom mode?
Oh, set up
Mm,
non-playable leagues in the background. Not in the way they work in the regular game. I mean, you can add leagues and not play in them, but it really wouldn't. It would be very difficult to do, and well, no, let me think about it. It's not in there now. Short answer, but I could put in something underlying like that. That would be. It's going to be fairly far down the list.
yeah.
I'm just thinking of all
Um,
the potential complications there.
uh, Question from Mick3522 says, will players who fight in the QMJHL be suspended like in real life? No.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. It's not doing that right now, but there is a setting I can change for that, and I will turn that on. So if you fight
Yes.
once, you'll get a suspension. It's not exactly the same implementation of the rule as what the Q is doing, but something close to it. And I think we may want to, now that they're doing that, we may want to look at how we handle fighting rules in general. I think same thing with Europe and international play having the automatic ejection for a fight.
Yeah. Eric Keff asks, has there been any change to what ratings have more weight in players' overall rating? Like, for example, is fighting less of an overall factor in raising or lowering players' overall rating?
It's really a very small factor right now. The only place that fighting raises the overall rating is if a guy is specifically there to fight. If you meet certain rating requirements, I think it's high aggression and high fighting ability, then he gets rated much higher than he normally would be. It's the only way you can really make goons work in the game. Otherwise, teams would never put them on the roster. But if you set it up so if you if you give a bonus for players of that type, that's how we cheat the goons into the AI and getting them to use it in the years where there's actually fighting in the league.
Yeah. Connor McEwen asks, any balance done to the NCAA, Atlantic Hockey, and ECAC get unusually strong? Yet always seems to do well too. Also, I think the transfer portal is going to affect that quite a bit.
Sorry, RIT? RIT. Uh,
What did I say?
you said RIT.
No,
It's
save it. I'm too
my
used to red flyers. It's messing with me.
my friend Matt who went there would be really disappointed in you right now.
Well, I'm sorry.
But yeah, well, I mean the ratings are going to get redone, and I think depending on where you came in last year, there was a couple of points at which I think academic reputation was being weighted a little too highly, so that may have affected what you saw. I think I don't really notice that now. I mean, if you're watching streams, obviously we're able to dominate as Wisconsin, so it doesn't really have that heavy eastern northeastern bias, particularly with the high academics leagues, teams like the Ivy League and ECAC.
All right. Yeah, apparently there's a little bit of buffering on the stream right now for some people. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
We did have a
Um,
little glitch at the start of this, trying to get a hold of a Twitch server, so I think Twitch might be acting up tonight.
yeah, I can't quite tell. Um, Question from Ilya21 says, my apologies if I missed it, but is there any change in the trade logic?
Well, obviously the whole stuff with the trading block, we've changed things in there, and the type of responses you get on your trade offers, and then what did I did something with the trade. Sorry, drawing a blank at the moment. I remember adjusting something in the trade logic. I think it was something related to contract length.
Yeah, Jeff,
Nothing.
we got
No.
big problems here right now in terms of our sound stuff. It seems to be,
Yeah, it's buffering on my end too.
yeah, but I don't know what that's going to do for our for recovery here for the video.
Well, we're almost at the end of the hour anyhow. Hang on, let me.
Yeah.
Do you want me to restart?
No, I don't think restart, but I think maybe we'll have to wrap up questions here. Uh,
I'm not
just
even
in
sure
case
they're
things start.
getting. Wait a second. I think we may have lost it entirely. No, I think it's still. Oh wait,
I'm
no,
hearing
it's
I'm hearing some, but let's just wrap it up here. So to answer a couple more things, Jeff, is when are pre-orders going to open up? And you,
that'll be never because we don't do pre-orders. It'll be there on
well,
the as soon as the Steam page is as soon as it's available for purchase on Steam. That's the first time you'll be able to order it.
no, don't have pre-orders from Fastspring.
Nope, not doing that.
All right, there you go. You heard it here first. So
Never
you will
pre-order
be.
games. It's a bad idea. Wait until you see something or hear something.
All right, so you'll be able to purchase the game on November 7th, 2023, and that's the key thing to know. We will be back next week again streaming FHM 10, so you can get an idea and come see a few more things.
And hopefully the stream isn't breaking down like it is now, but at least Twitch gave us an hour here.
Yeah, so with that, we hope you are excited. We're excited to share more with you. Keep in mind, come on down to our official website, which is ootpdevelopments.com. Click on the community button in the top right-hand corner. And come on, talk about Franchise Hockey Manager 10, Franchise Hockey Manager 9, Out of Park Baseball, Perfect Team Go, or anything else you wish to discuss. Jeff, I'm going to guess the FHM 10 forums will be getting up sooner rather than later as well.
Yeah, I'll probably put that up. I can't remember. Did we do that after the stream? I think it was a little shorter
We did.
period. Okay, I'll see.
No, I
That.
think we did.
I'll get at least an FHM 10 general discussion forum up tonight.
Yeah, we'll get stuff up here. And
One
again,
question in
we
chat,
have
Tyler A10's been asking about handedness in the CSV files. Haven't changed it yet, but I'll put that on the list. I think that'll be a simple thing to do, and it should be in there.
Yeah, so there's more details coming. We'll be continuing to share, including next week. Again, our usual rigmarole at the end. Thank you very much for tuning in to another Franchise Hockey Manager stream. We typically stream every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/franchise hockey manager, as well as twitch.tv/ootpdevelopments. All of our streams, including this one, are archived on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/ootpdevelopments, with stream archives usually going live Sundays at about 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, although this one will be going up as soon as it's available on our YouTube channel. You can also reach out to us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/franchise hockey manager. On Twitter, we're at franchise hockey. You can also find a link to official Discord in our Twitter bio. And as I mentioned before, which is ootpdevelopments.com, click on the community button, and that'll bring you to official forums. Again, I should mention too, we do also have a subreddit, Franchise Hockey. We can come talk about it as well. Jeff and I are in and out of there all the time.
Okay,
Jeff,
and
did I miss anything?
no, I'm just going to for anybody that came in late, I will rerun the trailer again now, and that will be it for this week, and we will see you back here next week if you want to see a little bit of FHM 10 in action.
Celebrating 10 years with our fans. Franchise Hockey Manager 10, officially licensed by the NHL. Welcome to the next generation of FHM. Play the game your way. Custom games now allow you to import real teams or entire leagues from anywhere in the world or from our historical game. And you can now set up promotion and relegation systems for your custom leagues. Gain more control with our reworked trade system, including new team needs and player shopping systems. Beware the media. Manage media relations that can affect your team's happiness and the opinions of your fans and owner. Bring more hockey history to life by traveling all the way back to 1909 and the newly playable National Hockey Association, complete with 7-man hockey. College hockey has expanded. American college teams now have to contend with the transfer portal, and the Canadian college teams are now playable. Updated for the 2023-2024 season for every NHL club as well as international, minor, college, and junior leagues. Get to know the players better with prospect tournaments, youth tournaments, and new scouting options. And so much more. Franchise Hockey Manager 10, celebrating 10 years of hockey strategy with our fans. All on the only NHL licensed PC game. Releasing November 7th, 2023.